I love that.
You say that every time, I think.
Because I love it every time. I am literally dancing. John Keating joining me, Danny Black, or Danny Black joining John Keating. Hobby Think Tank. Welcome back, guys. How are you,
Guys,
guys?
me
People are
and all
going to
my
be listening.
personalities, we're all doing well. Thank you for having us.
I'm
Uh,
talking. I'm talking to the masses who will be watching.
and girls, then. I'm sorry. Guys,
Yes,
girls, children of all ages, which is kind of what we are, right? As hobbyists, I think we're kind of
I'm definitely
children of
not
all
a
ages,
child
right?
and not my age. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a great excuse for me to be as immature as I am, and I am very, very immature. You could tell by my occasional stabs at humor. Uh, I'm a bit immature. So that's not the topic. We're not here to unpack and
I
peel
think
back
it's.
the layers of John Keating. That's for sure.
I think it adds into the conversation today. We are talking about ways to fund or build your collection. Different tips more than the traditional just throwing straight cash at stuff. I think the hobby sometimes thinks that's the only way to acquire is just keep throwing cash, and there are other ways. And there's more productive ways to use your money. So I think try to help people out a little bit and. I know you're good at it. I try to be good at it. So, you up for a little chat?
Yeah, and there's plenty of folks out there that are doing it their own way, and which is we all collect differently, but it's how we build that collection is, I think, a part of it as well. And it's all everybody does it slightly different, and it morphs and it evolves, and it is really a constant recalibration, not only of what you collect, but how you collect things and go about accumulating one's collection for sure.
Now, both of us obviously buy cards. So
Hmm.
we're not. The point is not to say we don't do that. The point is to say there are other ways to acquire them. So I had one that I think kind of gets overlooked sometimes, and I wanted to throw it out to get started. If cool with you,
Sure.
a good old fashioned trade.
Right.
I think it is so overlooked. You know, if you have a card that somebody else wants that you don't want, talk to a dealer. A lot of times they're open to the trade. If you're at a show, talk to your friends. If they collect something and you pick up a card, maybe there's a friendly trade there. So I think that's an easy way, and part of the great part of the hobby and the community is those relationships where you can trade with people in a more friendly manner than a straight sale. And it's a great way to add cards to your collection. And, if you have cards that you don't need or want in your collection, to give to somebody who will appreciate it.
Yeah, they say nobody gets rich or has gotten rich on their own. You can't really build a collection on your own, no matter how you go about doing it. And trading is great. There's a lot of people that trade via trading card database. Oddly enough, I find that I don't have the confidence to do something like that because perhaps maybe I'm paranoid about what I'm sending. It is up to the other collectors or the other traders specs and satisfaction. So that kind of worries me. Do I
Do you
trade?
trade with friends?
I don't really trade. And you mentioned dealers and other people. I dealers. There's a little trepidation there because dealers aren't going to give you. Well, I guess maybe I'm wrong, but you're not going to get full potential value. I guess with a dealer because a dealer has to turn that thing around, right? If
Well,
you have
some
friends,
dealers are collectors and they can't help
that's a good
themselves.
point, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I'll put it out there. I don't think I have anything that is unique um, that somebody has to have, and they're only going to get it from me. I think that I'm a pretty mundane and average collector. So what I have in my collection is pretty much you can get anywhere at any time. But a lot of people trade, and I think it's great that they trade. And I see a lot of modern cards getting traded. That's probably easier to trade like for like. On the floor next to me is a box of '70s commons that are in all sorts of bad shape. So those won't be traded. I will. I, for fear of disappointing somebody in a trade, I'd rather give cards away than trade them for something. So
Well, I was about to say that you definitely have a group of friends that casually send cards to each other. So in a way, it's an ongoing trade.
yeah,
Otherwise, you
that's a
wouldn't be
great
friends with
point.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great point, and it's stuff that maybe I wouldn't otherwise go seek, but or maybe I didn't know existed. But it's really neat to receive that. A lot of it is more modern Yaz stuff and some oddball Yaz stuff as well. But you're right, it's fun. I have friends that collect certain teams or players and stuff like that, and I'd much rather give that away. I tell people to go on people that I know, not everybody, go on my store. I've told that to you. If you see something you like, I'll just pull it
promote
off
it.
this.
What's the name?
I'm not going to do that because everybody's going to want a free stuff.
Not free. Tell them
Yeah,
where they can go
it's
to your
that
free stuff.
70s card store on eBay. But yeah, but it's that's what friendships are all about in the hobby. Knowing that your friends are going to send you stuff, and that's a great point. I hadn't thought of that. I do trade, but I don't do conventional trading. More like rack reciprocated by another rack, which is the trading of stuff.
Well, I
So,
will say you gave me a good tip when I started putting my set together because I had not really been a set builder, which is trade my duplicates.
yep, yeah, yeah,
Great way to help build sets. That's been nice.
yeah, for sure. You know, I sell a lot of my duplicates, and I because that's the and I have no problems buying more duplicates if they're easily if I can easily turn that into cash. And when I say cash, I mean $1.59 eBay sale nets you 25 to 40 cents, but it can add up after a while. So yeah, trading, selling duplicates. I have a couple 100,000 duplicates and nearly a couple 100,000 worthless duplicates, but in there are some gems. So I mean, I went through a box of 1990 tops and I pulled out a couple Bernie Williams, a couple Sammy Sosa rookies, a couple Ben McDonald's. So they're on the
Absolutely.
store. You could buy 5 or 6 of those at a time, Danny.
Greatest college pitcher of all time.
Yeah. So I mean, stuff like that. It's and again, there are people that have this dialed in. The trading card database is great for trading, and it's a little bit of a competition, a friendly competition amongst mostly player collectors, I guess. There's people that have done full shows, many shows on how they turn their side hustle into funding their collection, whether it's ComC or sports lots. Mike Summers really good at that. eBay is kind of the common thing. Every little thing like that takes a little bit of an effort, and dedication. But once you get into the groove, it's in theory, you're cleaning out some of your cardboard boxes and filling your coffers a little bit at a time.
And reinvesting back into.
Yes, yeah, it helps, right? It helps. There are people that are have a super fund behind them, and we're all in different stages of life. You're further behind than I am. Your kids are younger. My kid, one of my kids, my second and last kid, is about to graduate from college a year from now, so that will free up some funds there. But we all have to do what we have to do to feed the machine.
My kids are going to be heading into college over the next couple of years, so I don't expect to buy a baseball card until about 2063.
Yeah, well, it's good. Somewhere in there will be another trough. So hopefully you have it timed correctly. Now, that's another thing we talk about. Building your collection. A lot of people have bought a lot of stuff. This is still, I think, a tough environment to grow a collection because stuff is more expensive than it was 5 years ago, 4 years ago. But um, it's if you had a head start then and built those collections, then great. But a lot of people are getting into vintage now, as you know, and it's getting tougher and tougher to I guess collect everything or collect it all, as my friend Dean Gearhart says. You have to be more specific for sure.
You have talked before about buying lots,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I think is a strategic way to build the collection. It's kind of cool. What's your approach when you by a lot because you obviously don't need or want every card in there.
Yes. So as somebody who I've made it, I've simplified my collecting, which means if 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 I don't have it, it goes into my collection. So I think that I know it may sound complicated, but it's real simple. I look at Beckett OPG. If it's not in there, it goes into my collection, and everything else goes into the the sales part of things, right? So if I buy a collection, my primary concern is uh, the obviously what I'm paying for a collection or a sale. I don't even know if it's a collection, but a collection of cards or a gathering of cards, a big lot, and I weigh the price of that on the potential added value of my collection. Now, I don't mean to. I cringe a lot at the prices and how important they are in the hobby. But I look at it as added value to my collection for whomever, whether it's me or somebody else that eventually liquidates my collection. So that's how I look at. I compare value. So say I buy a collection of. Here's an example: a collection of 40,000 cards, which is a collection I bought. I don't know, maybe earlier this year, January. 40,000 cards for
Nice.
$400, right? And if that adds, when I'm done logging in the cards that I don't have into Beckett OPG and the perceived value is maybe $4,000, then obviously I've 10x'd that investment. On top of that, out of those 40,000 cards, if 25,000 of them are duplicates, and I start selling those, I look at those 25,000. I like to say 40,000 divided by 400 is whatever, a penny a card. So I still look at it as a penny a card because that's essentially what I paid for it. So I sell a penny a card on eBay for $1.59, netting 40 cents, or Topps Heritage Albert Pujols from whatever year, 2008, which sells for $4. Then you know bam,
Right.
you're turning a penny into you're 300xing a penny.
Right,
So
right back into the next slot.
yeah, and I do that with the collection I bought. That 40,000 card collection was maybe 2,000 on up, right? So great, a lot of cards added to my collection, and then a lot left over to sell. And then there's other stuff. I recently bought a box of football cards from the 50s and 60s for say 50 cents a card. And there was 575 cards. So 550 cards. I paid 275 card,
It's a good price.
$275, right? And these are 50s and 60s, early 60s, really, really great stuff. Fleer cards and Tops and Bowman and Philadelphia.
One an aside, I think vintage football is a huge growth area.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I
I think it's
sell,
undervalued. Yeah.
yeah, I sell. I have a bunch of those on my store because I have a bunch of duplicates. So I look at that box of 550 cards. If I get 300 out of them that I needed, I will still pay less than $1 a card, and then I'm selling 200 and something cards for $3.99 up to $11.99 each on eBay, and I cover my cost of acquisition, whatever it is, whether it's a penny or whether it's 50 cents a card. I usually cover it pretty well with reselling the duplicates. If I don't have any duplicates, then great. Just as long as I've exceeded the value or perceived value that I purchased a lot with.
That's a lot of disciplined work. I got to be honest.
Well, it boils down to if you don't have, and this is me, if you don't have a love for the cards, right, to go through 40,000 cards or 575 cards, then none of it matters. I mean, if
Right.
there's no pressure, right? Like I said, if I buy $400 lot and net immediately realize $4,000 increase in my collection's value, it doesn't matter, but it's still, I love going through those cards and learning about the cards. I didn't have a lot of knowledge of 2000 through 2015 players, but it helps me gain knowledge of the cards and the players and all that fun stuff and the history of the companies, right? Like Absolute and all those card companies that aren't around making baseball cards anymore.
Um, Somewhere there's a lot of NFL Pro Set cards.
I have them. I have them
Yeah,
all. Yeah, I have them all. So if anybody needs the Pro Set cards, they're all right here in my basement. So
yeah. Speaking of ones that had a little pop up for a couple of years,
yeah, I got a million of them. I got a million Upper Deck
that's
hockey
great.
cards. I've got everything, Danny. I've got it all. This is where they all come to die. I got
So this is what people want to know. How do you build it? Over time. I mean, how many years has this collection been going?
Well, a lot of my there's been an exponential growth the last few years since I started buying more in bulk, obviously. But behind me are boxes and boxes of cards, and a lot of them I've had for years and years and years. Like it's fun. I hear people talk about their Carl Yastrzemski player run, and they're working on that. It's brutal, 23, 24 cards. I was finished the Carl Yastrzemski playing run when he stopped playing. So whatever, 38 years ago, 39 years ago. So I have a lot. I have a lot of that stuff, but it's more like playing catch up on the newer stuff, and then the oddball stuff is really fun to discover, which I think everybody is discovering. And we forget to talk about how in vogue pre-war cards are. Most I just remember from my youth in the 70s and 80s, pre-war was the 33 Gaudy and the T206s. And now we're like everybody's discovering more and more sets and learning more and more about them, exhibit cards, all that stuff. So uh, we never will everybody who's collected for a long time will tell you that they're never going to stop learning. So it continues to grow. I've had some crossroads, and am I going in the right direction? But your first instinct is usually correct. Just keep doing what you're doing. I know you've had you go about it a little bit different way, and maybe when we're done here, I'll tell you a little story about a bizarre hustle that I've had lately that I did an episode on. But you're in a different boat because you are a dealer, you're a broker, you're a collector. How do you
Yeah.
segment all of those different things?
I keep all the cards in my bathtub and just swim in them.
Yeah, you don't have a bathtub, dude. You're homeless, or you have three
A hundred
bathtubs.
percent true. No, this is
Yeah,
100% true. I
yeah,
am borrowing a house and internet right now, so this is 100% true.
right,
Um, you made the point. You have to love the cards. You
right.
have to love wanting to go through the cards. So whether it's for a client or for myself, dude, I just love the cards.
Mhm.
It's going through it is a lot of the fun for me. Um,
But when
and
you're on the clock with a client,
yeah,
you're on the clock with a client trying to purchase cards for them. Are you
you want me to be honest?
Do you ever double dip? You ever
No,
working for yourself and the client at the same time?
no, not without asking them. But I have approached clients and said, listen, here's fair market value for this card. I'll show them the comps and say, I just want to be honest with you. I'll pay you fair market value, but I haven't been able to find this card.
Right.
I prefer to buy it. And usually, once if I've done work for them, they're very gracious and we work
Right.
something out. But to build my collection, I'll be honest, I have relied on a lot of friends, a lot of tips from friends, a lot of places to go, websites I didn't know about, and better shopping than just going on eBay, I guess would
Yeah.
be one of my tips. Is there's a lot of resources out there that I don't think people are familiar with, and I think it's worth getting to know all the sites, even if you don't use them.
eBay is kind of cheating, and I don't mean that to disparage eBay, but I've always said it's kind of a last resort. Um, I've found I've had to buy some cards through eBay because I've just had no other option. And
Yeah,
because you will get, if you're looking for a certain 1971 Yaz card that's very difficult to find, you go to a card show and even the national, you'll find maybe a couple of them, and the dealers know that they're hard to find. But you might get lucky on eBay if somebody's sleeping or has their auction set to go off at the wrong time and stuff like that. So sometimes you have to resort to eBay. I know a lot of people don't have card shows or card shops near them, and it's kind of a a link to the outside collecting world. So,
But
but
you mentioned a bunch of sites that I think are work that people should look at.
I did.
Trading card database.
I did. You're right. I did mention this. Yeah,
Yeah.
TCDB is great. If you have a mailbox, you
Sport,
can
sport lots.
support lots. Yeah, I mean they all have their little quirks, right? Just like
Right. Even
eBay does.
ComC or I just
ComC.
bought a
Yep,
card off. I bought a card off Beckett Marketplace last month.
I've done
Who
that
knew they
before
were
as
even
well.
open?
Yeah, I
Didn't
know.
even know they were
I
open.
know. Very. It's a members only thing. You have to be. Yeah, it's like an illegal rave. You get a text right before
Right.
tell you where it is. That's where Beckett is, Beckett Marketplace. But
It is a speakeasy.
it's a speakeasy, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's and as we know, there's auction houses. Some of them are higher end, but you and I have talked about a certain one in Maryland who I built quite a few of my sets through them. Some sets are complete, some sets are in the state of
But you're talking about through auctions.
through auctions, but you can buy a
Yeah.
lots. And you and I have spoken about the 57 tops, and I know I don't know where you are in that endeavor, but you can go on Facebook and in the 57 tops group and possibly buy 50 of somebody else's duplicates for a fairly reasonable price, right?
That's another great way to build your collection.
Yeah,
So I mean, I think that's the whole point is, how can you on a budget or, slowly kind of get to your, whatever your personal collection is. Like you said, everybody collects differently, whether it's you going through modern, kind of a change in for you or, me building a set, which was a change for me. I think you never
yeah.
stop learning.
Yeah, there's people. Another interesting thing is for the people that love their slabs. I have a lot of PSA slabs that I got in the '90s when eBay was just coming around, and a lot of mantles, right? So, but I'm an SGC guy, so I know people who downgrade by trading.
Hashtag first world problems.
Yeah, I mean, I have some most of all the mantles I got in the late '90s were fives, sixes on up. I have an eight, right, and they were cheap back then. So, in theory, I can trade a 60 All Star mantle that's an eight for an SGC five and maybe something else, maybe a few other things too. If the eye
That's
appeal is good. So, I mean, you can downgrade. A lot of folks right now are rethinking their old strategies. I know there's a couple folks that have said, I bought the grade, I didn't buy the card. Now they're going to buy the card, which may be two grades lower, and they can still get money for that grade instead of and get the card that they like better. So there's ways to
a
go
great
about
point.
that. You can.
In fact, I just sent you a picture of a card that I was doing that.
Did you really?
The Frank Robinson.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Which is beautiful. You did a great job on that, right? You can upgrade by downgrading in theory because you have to taking advantage of the way it's not taking advantage of, but being aware of how people collect. There's a market for everything. So if someone wants a seven because there's a number seven on there, but you feel a five looks the same, then why not? Uh, why not?
Add a second card on top.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Now, I think it's easier to do that with other maybe other again, I'm leery of the dealers because the dealers are sharks. I feel like you know I ran into an issue recently where I traded a uh, a PSA 6 because I acquired through pure luck a PSA 5 of the same card. So I traded a 6 and it was great because I looked at a 1998 6 looks no different to me than a 2023 five,
Yeah,
right? So
probably true.
yeah, exactly. So bam, and I got a nice return off of that. So you got to think outside the box. And like I said, I had a video on my YouTube channel about my 1956 set, which is completely outside the box thinking. I think my total outlay for a 56 set was probably, I think, $15.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's through it's we swim in an ocean where it's all about deals. There's no, we talk about comps, but there's no conventional wisdom's out the door. You have to find a way. Uh, you have to find a way to get what you want, and you can be creative about it as well. So, again, my acquisition of the 56 set, I had 100 of the cards to begin with, but I ended up getting the whole set minus a couple Hall of Famers that I already had. But you have to be creative, and I sat there in my LCS with my local guy, and we hammered it out over a couple of days. Like, you need this, and I
Right.
need that, so let's figure out a way to get what you want. And it didn't necessarily mean he
So
was
you
getting
so you
card
traded with your LCS.
traded with my LCS, who I've come, he's been around for 2 years now, and I've seen him evolve, and I've kind of pointed a few things out to him that he should know. He was real modern heavy. Now he's got a great mix and all that stuff. So I traded with my LCS, and it involved airline miles for the national. It involved hotel room nights for the national. It involved a 1960 PSA 6 Mickey Mantle. And in return, I got most of the 1956 set. I got a Yaz auto on a card of some
It's pretty cool.
crazy thing, and I got an Ernie Banks rookie. But you look at the value of airfare and the value of hotel nights at the
Yeah,
national, right? And
yeah,
I travel a
yeah.
lot, so I get that stuff in return, and it's bartering, and it's no different than trading. What is traded every day on a card show floor. You
All
just have
kidding aside, there's real value I mean, I'm driving to the National from Baltimore.
right.
So if you and I were to do a trade, think outside the box. That's a great tip.
And
But
how long does it take you to drive to Chicago?
it's going to be a good 12 hours of drive time,
Sure,
not to
24
mention
hours. You have to
stops.
double that, right? So what is 24 hours of your life worth? I say that all the time. I
Yep.
look at things. I'm in the business where we charge for individuals, and I know what a well versed person is worth per hour in my business, and
Yep.
so 24 hours of your time is a lot of money, right?
Well, but you're right. I've traded my services for cards,
Right.
which is my time, which has value.
Which is what I do when I sell on eBay, because if I
Right.
was doing that, I wouldn't be able to make a living doing it. But what I'm putting in is time, sorting and listing and all that stuff, and shipping. Piece of cake.
Yep.
Because I love, again, going back to it, we love what we do. And if I was chopping up sardines, it'd be a different story, Danny. And making 40 cents a sardine, I'd probably be ticked off. But
I have no idea what sardines cost, by the way.
yeah. But anyway, I don't know if anybody who loves being around sardines, they might like eating them, but they sure as heck don't want to be in a basement full of them and putting them in envelopes and shipping them. So I mean, part of it is our hobby makes it fun, and then you put the time in. But 24 hours in the car for my dealer versus 2 hour flight there and a 2 hour flight back, it's 20 hours more he would spend trying to get to the national. So his money,
Yep.
that's 2 days. That's 2 days of his store being closed down or whatever.
And
So
so, both of us have found creative ways to, use what we have
yep, yeah,
in trade. So it sounds like, I mean, to kind of bring this full circle, first of all, it sounds like you have to act like a kid and love the cards.
hmm
Um, otherwise, otherwise you can't do it on a budget.
as a collector, right? I mean,
Yeah,
dealers are a different
but they're still
breed.
throwing money at it,
They
even if it's
are
at a
sure,
discount.
and a
Yeah,
lot of dealers are collectors, but dealers have found a way that they essentially get paid to do. You know, I'm monkeying around with my duplicates so that I can buy more cards.
exactly.
I'm not doing it to put food on the table or whatever. I don't have that expertise that they have, um, or the network. But speaking of network, it's important to meet people. And I'll tell you what goes a long way is the more people that know you collect or looking for cards, the more cards you'll find. Um, my
That's
wife
true.
came home with a box of cards from uh, somebody that she worked with because she knew I collected. So show people your collection or show people you're interested. My boss knows. I posted on Twitter today that I got my PTO approved. So I told my boss I'm going to a baseball card convention in Chicago. If you need me, fine, let me know. Otherwise, approve my time off. And he approved my time off, but now he knows. So maybe he's like, oh, that
Right.
goofy Keating, he likes cards. So plant a seed in somebody's head that you're a collector, because as we know, there are as many collectors there are collections sitting somewhere that are dormant, that are waiting to be either discovered or thrown away or whatever. So just let people know you collect too. You'll be amazed that you just got to get really, really lucky once to get that mother load, right?
Well, and not only that, just how magnanimous some people are. I mean, obviously, I've talked about this 57 set to death on all the shows we do, but people have sent me some cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I'm not talking a lot of dollars, and some of them
Right.
are just one card, but that's the cool part of the hobby.
I had
That
I
means
had
more
a,
to me.
I'm sorry, Danny. I had a fellow collector and fellow YouTuber come over last week, and he brought me a Yaz card, and I said put it in and I had took a picture of him putting it in the Yaz binder, which is awesome. He was
Yeah.
looking at my collection, and I said I'd feel great if you put it in there. So he put it in the binder under the ear and all that stuff. So it's let people know what you like and stuff like that. And again, I had a friend of mine from Philly bid on a card on my eBay store, and then he sent me a message on Twitter, and he says, "Oh, you didn't like my offer," so I immediately took it off, and he's getting the card, right? Because it's just like most people won't say, "Hey, can I have that card?" But my friends, yourself included, should know if there's anything on that store that you like, just let me know, because I've been lucky enough, more ways than one, to have it reciprocated. So,
Well, I
yeah,
think there's a reason we call it the hobby and not the industry, and I hope it doesn't change.
right, right, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you, man.
So I think the bottom line is, even if you're antisocial like myself, get
And
out there.
me, you're more
Yeah,
social than I, dude. You hugged me the first time you saw me
I'm a
on an
hugger.
escalator in
I
Las
am a hugger.
Vegas.
I'm a hugger. I can't help it.
You were
If you
whatever
meet
the
me at the
opposite of
National this year,
antisocial, huh?
yeah, and if you meet me at the National this year,
Yeah, I'm worried
it's
about what our second date's going to be like.
no,
Gosh,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It depends on how sweaty you are.
you better not be wearing a kilt this year. I don't know if I could take that again.
You got to have a leaf behind.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And all right, are we have we covered ways to grow the collection?
Yeah, I don't think we broke any ground, but there's there's let people know you collect. Be
Yeah,
creative about your acquisitions, and not selling cards, reselling cards isn't for everybody. We
but
it's an
reinvesting
investment
in
in
the
time.
collection is okay.
Yeah, right. But it's a when you have a kid in college and you have a couple 100,000 duplicates, then it makes sense to, or even 1,000 duplicates. It makes sense to try to turn that into something, some new cards for sure.
John Keating, always a pleasure. Peace
Grazie.
out.
Later.